again, typical exergy budget of there, and again you see the cumulative exergy that is used on Earth now. Most of it goes to, some of it goes to heat transfer, momentum transfer, and mass transfer within our systems on Earth. And this is our connection with the exergy analysis and life cycle assessment. And this is how we started this conference, to relate these two concepts of exergy and LCA, because as you know, in the LCA community there is animosity towards the exergy analysis people, and the same with exergy analysis people. So we've tried to connect the two communities, the LCA community and the exergy community, and I don't know if we have succeeded, but there are a lot of papers, a lot of them, in the past, I would say 6 or 7 years, that connect exergy and LCA, especially for the first time, the journal, International Journal of LCA, I'm the responsible editor for the exergy part. So all the papers that come in using exergy for LCA, I take care of them, and there are many of them, believe me. So the LCA journal, the International Journal of LCA, has been transformed into LCA and exergy use. Of course, there are many journals on exergy analysis from various publishers. I want to thank you all for coming here. It is not easy to come, especially these days with banks closure, but I hope you enjoy it. Nisyros has a lot of places to visit. We have museums, we have the volcano, we have our castle where you can visit. It's an old castle from 600 BC. And of course our communities, which are architecturally, I think it's a pearl to see that our communities, how they are structured. And I hope you enjoy it here and you come again. Thank you. I will ask Thomas to come up.
Yes. Thank you. So I need to change the presentation to another one. Just a minute.
Speak without the microphones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unlike Professor Cornelius, I'm not so used to using microphones because I'm not such an official person, so I prefer to speak like this. But now if you have a little bit of a problem to see the slides because the light is a bit weak, please move forward because, yeah, I think it's okay. So anyway, you know this already. Next, please. Yeah, and go on. First I want to say a few things about the association CETAC, because some of you may not be fully aware of that. And this is a lot of marketing stuff. In fact, the executive director of CETAC was supposed to be here and give this presentation, but he broke his ankle on Tuesday. So he gave me a phone on Wednesday and told me, Thomas, can you possibly say something on behalf of CETAC? And I said, okay, so go on. So CETAC is an association of both individuals and maybe company members, and it has a role to promote scientific research, education, and the use of science in environmental policy and decision making. The actual acronym CETAC means Society of Environmental, it's difficult to say, Environmental Toxicology and Chemistry. So please move on. And it's a very global association. This is a different way of saying more or less the same thing, that it's objective science, multidisciplinary. So it's both the toxicology and chemistry. If you're, let's say, working in something else, like social science, you may think it's the same, but it's obviously not. The tripartite balance means that it aims to contain both academia, industry, and government bodies or members from these three types of institutions. Next, please. Like I said, it's a really global global community. It's organized in these different sections, and each of them have nowadays their own, let's say, regional branch. So as you can see, there is very recent one from Africa, which was previously like going together with the European one. So I think CTAC is very happy to have this global coverage. Next, please. And there are so many members of CTAC worldwide, and maybe some of you are actually CTAC members. Can I see a hand up for those of you who are CTAC members? Okay. Then at least it makes sense that I tell you this, because some of you may not be too much aware of what CTAC is. Okay, next please. Yeah, go on. Go on. Okay, this is the more important stuff. So what does CTAC actually do? Yeah, in fact, a very large part of at least the visible part of CTAC is to organize and help organizing and co-organizing meetings. It's typically done through each of these regional branches. So that's why in this case the European branch, and more specifically the LCA advisory group of the European branch, is co-organizing this with the ELCAS conference. But then there is also, let's say, once in 3 years, a kind of global conference, or let's say one of the regional conferences is actually upgraded, you might say, to a global conference. So the previous one, global, was in Berlin in 2012, in May. Okay, next please. From these meetings and also more, let's say, dedicated special symposia, there are often publications coming out that can be then found on the net. Some of them are actually sold through the CTAC website, and but of course the conference proceedings are included in the conference fee. Okay, next please. There are also some independent publications, because sometimes there are, let's say, deep diving into specific areas. Like in principle, there could be one about XRG and LCA. And there have been a few over the years in the life cycle assessment area, starting very early in 1993 with a CTAC Code of Practice for Life Cycle Assessment. Well, to be honest, there was actually one before that about a conceptual framework for life cycle assessment. Next, please. Yeah, let's see more. This is also what actually CTAC is doing, or how it works, because CTAC is, like I try to indicate, fairly broad, both in terms of geography and thematically. So these are some of the thematic advisory groups that are, or at least not only some of them, but actually the advisory groups that are there. And we have this one on life cycle assessment. We have, let's say, a branch of that one in Europe, and there are other branches in other areas of the world. So there is also on top of this a kind of global coordination group. The next slide, please. I will just give you a little bit more details about the CTAC Europe LCA steering committee, as we call it there. We also, in this particular committee, try to have this tripartite composition, and we have you're elected for 3 years, and anyone who is a CTAC member can actually nominate themselves to be a member, and we call for new members regularly, because we have running, or let's say renewed composition of this on a running or annual basis, basically. The current serving members are listed here. Maybe you know some of them. In fact, I want to mention specifically Heinz Stichnos, who is here in the room, and he is the current vice chair of this committee. I am currently the chair, and I was, of course, also honored to be the co-chair of this particular conference. Okay, thank you. Next, please. What does this specific LCA advisory group in the European branch do? Well, we have this event, which is the case study symposium, which is considered somehow our own event, or like in this case, we co-organize it with another conference organizer in order to try to find synergies. We have a presidential track in the annual conference that's for the whole of CETAC Europe, which covers LCA. It takes place in May, normally, every year. And we can, if need arises, arrange special symposia. I've been in the committee now for 6 years, I think it is, and so far we have not arranged any special symposia in this advisory group, but it's one opportunity or option that we may have. We grant awards to some recognized researchers. We have 2 awards actually that we are responsible for in the LCA group. It's a lifetime award that's granted once in 2 years to very highly, and it's organized in a way that anyone who is a CETAC member can actually nominate the person they think is eligible for this lifetime award, and then the steering committee has the final say about the selection of this person. The similar process is true for the LCA Young Scientist Award, but it's an annual award and it is rewarded to a person that's below 35 and has significant or high level achievements in the LCA area. We can also assign dedicated task forces or working groups. It's on an ad hoc basis, so it's on, let's say, suggestion from our membership. We have currently one working group that's, at least registered as a working group. It's not extremely active at the moment because I was once chairing this, and when I was chairing the committee, I was kind of running out of time, so it's a bit put on hold for now, I think. It's still there, like bubbling a little bit. So, and we also interact with various other parts of CETAC. Thank you. Next, please. And that's what I wanted to say about CETAC. So if you want to know more details, you can go to the CETAC website as this, and that's the end of the short introduction about CETAC. Now, I will instead switch to another presentation that's been inserted in the program because we have had a dropout of the keynote speaker that was announced in the program, Dr. Arnas. So instead, I would like to, I think you could say it's a complement to the presentation introduction that Dr. Koronias had on the exergy relation to life cycle assessment, because this is then stretching the limits a little bit further out into how to deal with the multi-objectivity of life cycle assessment. So how do we deal with weighting or evaluating the impacts that come out in different categories. And some of you who are very experienced in LCA will feel that this is old stuff, but for some of you this may be new and it may still serve as a good survey of things. So I hope I'm not shocking you or we are not shocking you too much by introducing this change in the program a little bit, but it's because of necessity, I think. Like evaluation and weighting in life cycle assessment, and it also then applies to cost-benefit analysis, but I will try to be fairly brief.